So hi, I'm Gemma Roten and this is Rachael Downie, and this is our Survive and Thrive Seed Eating Disorder Support Services little interview with the wonderful Rachael Downie, who, as I said, is our first ambassador for Seed, and so proud to have her as part of our seedling community. Rachael is also a sports presenter, specialising mainly in football and motorsport. And she covers Titans RX series for Eurosport, travelling Europe, COVID permitting, and presenting live most weekends, COVID permitting. This one day this interview will be shown. It'll be like, what are you talking about? Who are these people talking about COVID? Well, like we can hope and pray. But yeah, and you also are a United Nations women campaigner for gender equality through the He for She campaign. So an all-round good egg, as they say up north. Thank you so much for doing this, darling. So obviously you are our first ever ambassador, which just meant so much to me. Like, we've been going 21 years, and just to have somebody who has got like the outreach and the profile, but also the lived experience that you've got, and the timing of it was just perfect. And having an ambassador for Seed has meant so much. So first of all, thank you.
That's okay. Thank you.
A little round of applause for Rachael. And we've got Hugo Rifkind as well. He came on board after you as well. So it's just lovely that we've got two people that, I really, really respect, and a lot of people respect, who are willing to be, so open. But also I think the big one for me is, especially right now, supporting small charities.
Yeah,
because you see like the big guns with all the big names and X, Y, and Z ambassadors, and you sort of go, but we're here.
Yeah,
we're doing stuff. So thank you. So I'm going to go straight into it. I'm not used to being the interviewer. This is a bit weird. I'm used to being like on the other side of the fence. So I'll enjoy this.
This is weird for me, being asked questions.
Of course, being the presenter.
Yeah, this is so weird. It's like, okay.
Right, well, at least you've got your gin, darling, to ease the nerves. I'll go gentle.
Thanks, my love. Thank you.
She says. Yeah. So this one, first sort of question I wanted to ask was, before we sort of delve into anything, was when you were younger, did you feel like you were different to the rest of your peers or the rest of the crowd? Did you feel like in any way different in terms of from well, not just peers, but like at school or anything like that?
I think it's weird, isn't it, when you kind of try to look back at your life and try to work things out. I would say, I don't know if different is the right word. I would say I've always been very sensitive, a very sensitive person. You can always taking other people's feelings and emotions on board and bearing whatever I was feeling. So I've always been a sensitive person as far back, all those many years as I can remember. And I suppose with my family, I'm the middle child, always very sensitive, always taking on whatever was going on around me, always taking it on me. And if one person wasn't happy, then I wouldn't be happy until they were happy. So it's kind of whatever my kind of feelings and thoughts and needs are pushed aside to make sure everyone else is okay. So I guess like a people pleaser. And I would say at school, I was probably the same. I would say when I was very, very young, that I was probably kind of like, the chatty one, the bit of the joker, but not the popular girl. I got bullied terribly throughout the whole school life. So I would say, probably very sensitive, just a very sensitive person. I would say
that's really interesting, because like that we are so similar in that, like so similar. Like when my dad often talks about how he felt like, because he was such a sensitive person when he was growing up, and he felt like, God, this breaks my heart to say it, but he felt like my eating disorder was partly his fault, because he passed on that sensitive streak, that sensitive gene or whatever. But it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I was exactly the same. I didn't feel like there was anything that made me not fit in until I started realizing that not everybody is taking on other people's problems.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't get my head around that. I was like, but that person's upset, so we need to fix that.
Yeah. Or you take those feelings home with you. It's like a sponge.
Yeah.
You take it, if someone's upset or you see something going on, you don't forget it. You kind of take it on board. So if that's one thing, then you take everything on board. And there's a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings as a little one you're carrying and trying to fix as well. And I guess when you look back, that is probably the start of everything, because you're carrying all this extra energy that's not positive. It's interesting you said, like, your dad's got a sensitive gene. I never thought about that, kind of like who out of the both is like the sensitive one. I suppose mine would probably be my dad. But then also I would say with both my mum and dad, you can read their faces. So if somebody was unhappy or someone, that I would take on. I would say, yes, I think I would say both, but I would say, I know we will talk about this, but the eating disorder side is definitely my mum's side.
Right.
I would say my mum, when you look at, again, when you're now looking back, I would say my mum, and then I'd say my nan, even though it's something that it's not something that they've acknowledged or have said. But it's funny when you look at, just trying to make sense out of things, I would say, yeah, my mum's side, definitely.
In terms of her character traits?
Yeah, I would say she probably has, just with her way of eating and her emotions when it comes to things like that, I would say the eating disorder side is probably from my mum's side. And maybe it's just, again, when you go through the growing up years, if you're going to be prone to something like that, you see what other people are doing. Yeah, I would definitely say, I think it's my mum's side I probably have got.
And do you speak to your mum about it now?
Yeah. But I don't see, I would never blame anyone. Like, it's weird. I've had, a lot of therapy over the years. But actually, no, probably in the last 5 years. I never had therapy when I went through everything. But I would never blame anyone for it. I would never. I mean, I've had some therapists that have been like, looking back, it's this person's fault, and it's like, well, no, because how is that ever you're just always gonna have a chip in your shoulder because you're blaming other people. But yeah, it's the way they are with food. Like, my mum will probably just have a cake for dinner instead of an actual nutritious meal. It's little things like that you become aware of it, and also like with weight or with this, and it's the emotional side of it. So yeah, I would definitely say my mum's side.
So, like, looking back in hindsight, because it has to be in hindsight, because at the time, I don't know about you, I had no clue what was going on. So, like, for you, looking back in hindsight, what do you feel now, after sort of really getting to know yourself and looking at that time? What do you feel were the triggers, and at what age because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, I genuinely felt like my mind switched overnight at the age of 10. Like, it wasn't, and this is just my personal thing, it might be different for you, and that's why I'm interested. And, like, as we know, everybody who is suffering from an eating disorder, you can't pigeonhole us all in the same category. No. It's so individual for everyone. But I just know that my story is very different to a lot of other people's, because I was 10 years old. I was reading Dandy and Beano, like, I wasn't reading, I wasn't looking at pictures of Kate Moss, as everyone used to say, it's Kate Moss's fault. No, it's not. Newsflash. It's not about vanity and about looking at somebody and wanting to copy. But I had none of those triggers, whereas I'm aware that for people who developed eating disorders in the teens, that might have been different. So, like, what was your sort of personal journey with it all? When did you realize that something wasn't right?
I would say the age of 11. So that's quite interesting.
Really?
Very, very young. So I used to be a professional dancer, and from a very, very young age, I went to the Royal Ballet. So I went through the whole. So I kind of feel there's many different maybe facets to it. So the dancer side of things. So you become very aware. So that side of things, you become very aware of your body. I had
Of course.
my back, clamps, so you can work out. You become aware of all of that.
Do they do that?
Yeah, but that, I mean, I'm talking, quite a few years. Yeah, they do all of that so they can see what it's. I mean, dance school, your proper dance school is it's quite hellish if but then you just become very used to it. And it's just what it is. You know all the tricks of the trade with how to lose weight, and you just become very aware of that. So I had so many things of that going on, but with me, I would say at 11, that was when I became very aware of losing weight, because I sat on someone's lap, and I wasn't I was a healthy young girl, sat on someone's lap and they made a comment. And I think that might have been my trigger. But I would say with me, I didn't like myself. So it was more the way you got. So if I was getting bullied, there's stuff, home life was wonderful. However, there was stuff going on. My escapism was going to dance school, where I was getting, your body clamped, your this, your that. My way of, I guess, going to a happier place was all of a sudden controlling my food, because all of a sudden, by me losing weight, school hell, so you kind of forget that. But by losing that weight, or a little bit of weight, you start at dance school things. So I was like a part-timer at the Royal Ballet. So dance school things would be getting better. At home, in my head, things were getting better when I was losing weight. So for me, that was the start of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, and that was probably then for years. I would say, yeah, maybe till about 26. So long.
Did you ever get help? Like, did you ever sort of reach out to the doctor? No.
I think it's just maybe a different time. I remember being so thick at one point and going off to a dance summer school. It's a you're a great liar. You can hide everything. You can make anyone believe anything.
Yeah.
And you probably don't realize, people don't realize, and you can hide if you're losing weight. You can eat meals in front of people. If people around you don't want to see it, they won't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what age I was. I want to say maybe about 14, 15. And I'm very aware not to say too much, because also I knew back then I would always be reading ways to lose weight, because it becomes addictive. And that's the thing, it's euphoric when you do start getting to this, when you haven't got food in your body, it's a feeling that you can't control. And, growing up, I would dream about going for dinners with my friends just to get invited, and just to kind of have a normal life. But I wouldn't obviously get invited because I didn't have friends. But also, you just can't. You want to eat, you want to be like a normal person. But after years of it, and it isn't about losing weight, it's just your body can't eat. It's really hard to explain to someone that's not gone through it. And, I had a bit of I don't know if addiction's the right word, but I know a lot of anorexics become bulimic, and my bulimia was with laxatives. So right. I could control, binge eating. I could control, I could have a meal here, but I know how to, again, not to kind of.
Well, you know how to keep it a secret, and I think that's one of the things. But even when you're saying it, Rachel, it's fine, because that, I always say to people, that's not you, that's what the eating disorder does.
Yeah.
So that's not you, sort of, it's not a path you want to go down, if that makes sense. The euphoric bit is the eating disorder.
Yeah, 100%. You don't choose it. You're not happy. You're lonely. You're so lonely. It's probably why now as an adult, I wouldn't say I have a fear of loneliness, but I have a fear of loneliness. Like if I see someone lonely, it breaks my heart. And I think it must be, when you try to look back, that. And it's weird because I would say now, my closest friends, I probably have been closest friends with probably since about 26, 27. I've got friends obviously before then, but I don't know. I just existed before. I didn't form friendships. I didn't have those drunken nights out. And it's weird because I feel like I'm still maybe a teenager now, so I'm still learning. It's so like sad. If I have friends coming over, sometimes I get quite nervous. Like, will they like me? Will I this? Because I'm still, in a way, learning what maybe people learn when they were teen. I don't know. So, because you do, like, you lose your childhood years, your growing up years. You know,
absolutely. And I think Rach, our stories are so similar. Like, even though the triggers are totally different, different. The fundamental thing that I think what I'm trying to do now that I'm manager of Seed and I've taken over, and helping sort of mum and dad and the way I'm trying to steer it is exactly this, what we're talking about. It's not just about surviving, it's about people having a life and thriving. And I think this is the bit that there's two sides to it. So every day, like, I'll see emails or we'll get calls about people who are on death's door, and it's just horrendous. That breaks my heart. But what also breaks my heart are those people who have lived with an eating disorder. I mean, we're lucky that we're in our 30s and we're starting to figure out what life is. But people who are 60 who have had an eating disorder for 40 years, they've had no life, they've not thrived, they've just existed.
That breaks my heart. But I can see that, and I get that, because you become, I guess maybe, I don't know, I would say I'm lucky that I've met certain friends that I have done at stages of my life, because, you become so isolated. You let people down. You want to hide from the world, because, you don't, that would, I don't know, it breaks my heart, but and also at the same time, because I was thinking, like, about this, like, me talking about it, so if I had a younger me, like someone 11, 12, you just kind of think, I wouldn't know how to kind of, for me personally, I just didn't like myself. When you feel like I didn't necessarily have a place where I could go and feel maybe mentally safe. Like, not saying that my home life wasn't, but just the things going on there, and I know that's why, I don't know, who knows, maybe the disorder was something you can control, but it's something that I had maybe. But again, then it spirals and you can't control it.
And that's the ironic thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think you're in control, but actually you lose control of everything.
And I can see why it happened to me, because again, it goes back to that sensitive thing. For me, you just want to make sure everyone else is all right around you, and somehow you begin to blame yourself for them being stressed, or people not liking you. I used to, at lunchtime, just go and hide in the school toilets. Like, I would do that all the time, and it took me years actually to get over, which is crazy, because like at work I'm like, the chatty laughy one, but I feel like maybe I have to be the first one to like laugh at myself and do something just to kind of get there. But if there was a group of girls behind me, probably well into my 20s, I'd be very paranoid. Oh my god, they're talking about me, they're this. It stays with you, all of it, and like school years can be horrible, but it's also, you want to get better, you want to be like everyone else, you want to have experiences like everybody else, and you don't, and I don't know, I feel like even now, I always say, I think we all carry our demons around with us. Some of us meet those demons, some of us live our lives never ever kind of crossing paths with them. I think I'm more vocal about everything, because you kind of think, what if something happens and it triggers me? And I think for me, that's a good way of me coping, because it's, I don't want to be like, I'm completely cured, and because you never know what tomorrow brings. You never know. And I think that's probably a healthier way of dealing with it. And it's funny, like a lot of people, and you're right, and again, I think you're either, you talk to people that literally do not have an addictive bone in their body, they're completely, and they don't get it, but then that's cool, because you're not meant to get it. No one's meant to get it or understand. You just show compassion and understand that we're all very different and we're all programmed very differently. And I think, some of us, I think I have an addictive gene, so some of us do have that, some of us don't. And I would say with the eating disorder, that is obviously, you go from one extreme to another. I don't know, sometimes I kind of think if you hit your lowest point, that either makes or breaks you. And I think around 26, that was when I hit my lowest point. And that's when I said to myself, like, you're either going to end up dead, or you've got, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long, long time. And there are moments, I know sometimes when I'm stressed, I worry a bit if I've lost a bit of weight, just not even thinking about it. You think, oh my God, is this? Because you do. You are always in touch with it. You're always worried, because it's something I'm not ashamed of at all. It shaped my life. And it is nice to talk about it to other people, because you do kind of think being sensitive is a weakness, being sad is a weakness. And it's not, because you're so strong, because you're still here. So if anything, it's the opposite. And I do wear my heart on my sleeve, again, probably as a coping mechanism. But I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a beautiful trait to have.
And I do get upset even now. Like, I kind of, if you kind of fall out with someone, it really upsets me. But again, that's just me. And I think I spend years kind of going against that and maybe hating that side of me, which is unhealthy to hate that side of yourself. So I don't know. I think we're all making it up as we go along, aren't we? And we're all trying to be happy and trying to find a peace, I guess. And people, I think your school years are bloody terrible, and I think well done for people that have a good time. I think that's but it's, I don't know. Again, I think a lot of people, again, if I looked at little me, it would be like, what would I say to you? Like, I don't know, just, I guess it sounds naff, but like, you are loved, and you're wonderful as you are, which is probably the naffest thing to say, but then that's all you want to hear. And I used to also want to be, I wanted to be the opposite. So I would try to dye my hair like so opposite and try to change me completely, so I'm not me. So if I'm the complete opposite to me, I would get liked and accepted whilst going through all the things I was going through. And I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have my child to go through dance school. Maybe that's not a good idea.
No.
But, I would say that's definitely not a good idea. But I guess by miracle we're here for whatever reason. But it does, and I can see why someone at 60 plus is suffering if they've not had that moment of a breather, that moment where they've managed to put their heads above the parapet and feel like, I've had a few more moments like that, which lead to a couple of years of being okay and forming friendships and relationships. If I can see how it could have gone quite easily the other way. And it's no reflection on anyone. Maybe we need just a little bit of luck, or meeting, I don't know, probably, who knows, other people, other relationships that saved you maybe. But even as an adult, my Lord, I can have my moments when I like to say, sometimes I kind of joke, say, oh my God, I'm so crazy. But as in, I can be way too sensitive, or way too this, or way too that. And if someone doesn't really know me, it could probably be a bit, but again, you can beat yourself up and regret things you've done, but there's absolutely no point, because it's just, I guess, just the way I am.
but I love that Rachel, because I hear a lot of people say, I'm never going to get better, or recovery is not possible, or you can't, you never get your life back properly. But hearing you speak is exactly how I kind of view the dirt. So I kind of think like you can grow flowers where dirt used to be. and it is what it is. We can't change the past. It's done, right? We can't. But it's the outlook and the way you're speaking. I really think it's going to empower and give hope to a lot of people, because it was, I was speaking to James Downs the other day, and he's coming on as a guest as well, and he's a massive advocate for eating disorders. He's very, very open about his eating disorder journey, and he put something up on Instagram a couple of days ago, and it was about his recovery, and he was like, you can't define anybody's recovery, because your recovery is your discovery. And I loved that. Because it's so true. Like you said, I'm still learning what it is to be an adult. I haven't quite figured it out, but that's because I spent 13 years of my life in and out of hospitals and institutions and psychiatric units, you know. Of course I'm going to be a little bit like, but, you know, and it's fine, you know.
It's adorable.
But what is perfect? Perfect doesn't exist. What is normal? I don't think normal exists. I think
no one is normal. Like, I mean, the people that say either you're crazy or you've got to be normal like us are the ones that have bottled their issues.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's got something. Everyone's got a few things in their closet that, you know, maybe don't like. Everyone's got something, doesn't matter what it is. And it's like you said with recovery, everyone's journey is so different, and it's like I said, it's every day. I think, I don't know, like I wouldn't at all say I was an expert, because I'm still, I think for me, like I said, it's work in progress. I haven't, like I would say, touch wood, I try to be as healthy as I can. I try to be as vocal and open as I can about things. Tomorrow's another day, and I think that's the best. It just takes the pressure off. And yeah, I've had my moments where you kind of, I wish I was like everybody else, and I wish my childhood with having friends and those experiences I've never had, I wish I kind of had them then. But then, you know, maybe there's something quite endearing about me experiencing things I'm experiencing now. Like I can't, it's who I am, and I'm just I'm sensitive, and I can see, I don't blame anyone. I can see why things happened. I can see, you know, I've had my moments where it's like, would life be easier if, you know, I not, you know, maybe wasn't here. It sounds dramatic, but you just think, because also when you have your very poorly stages, you see the upset you're causing the people around you, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to be doing this. I'm hurting that you. I am actually hurting you. And that's the one thing I didn't want. Yeah. So again, then you're hurting yourself even more. It's like, it's a vicious cycle. Yeah. And it's weird because, I don't know, I sometimes think also by talking about it a lot, it desensitizes it. And you feel like, as much as I'm talking about my story, you're talking, because you don't, because I always felt, how do I be an ambassador for something like this? Because what can I bring to the table in a way? Because, you know, I don't, you know, what is a success story? What is, but I guess we're here, we're breathing. I've got, you know, good friends around me, good people around me. And only a few, but again, that's all I want. I think I'd probably have a panic attack if I had loads. That's it, Jerry, oh my God, who are these people? Like attracts like, I think, as you get older, you do kind of get drawn to the people that have maybe had similar experiences, or are just, even if they don't, they're just compassionate towards your experience, which helps. But I think that's another thing, like, by talking about it, you don't want it to define you. But then I thought, actually, I'm not ashamed of it. But I think what I meant by that was, some people that don't get mental health, mention it, look at you like, oh, you know, you belong here. And it's like, oh, I don't want it to define me, because I'm trying to protect your feelings, because you don't get this. No, I'm not doing that. You're probably the one that was bullying me back at school. Yeah. Like, you're a dick. That's what it is. It's like, why should I apologize to everyone else for their lack of understanding? hard because if I had a child that was going through an eating disorder, what I don't know if I would be able to help, because you'd be panicking and worried, and it's a hard thing for the people around you. You know, I can see that. Of course, I can see that.
Well, you're already doing something, because you're supporting a charity who was co-founded by parents who were going through it, and that's that's one of the key things that we pride ourselves on, is that it's not just about the sufferer, it's about supporting the carer as well. So, and just going back to your, like, what can you bring to the table? You bring you, Missy. So that's good. But I'd love to step away from like the years before and look at a bit more about the recovery.